Welcome in. It's another Clemson football weekend. The Tigers 1-2 taking on the Syracuse Orange 2-1 tomorrow on Parents Weekend. And of course, my buddy Will Vandervort from the Clemson Insider, Mark Sturgis, and right now, Will, being around Lakeside Lodge, I don't care if they play a game at noon tomorrow or not. There's like 1,000 sorority girls and moms around here for Parents Weekend.
Yeah, we're going to be just hanging around late tonight, aren't we?
Yeah, dude, this show's 30 minutes tonight, and we're out the door, man. I'm telling you, because you know what? It might keep me, as I say, sometimes it's better for me to think first and speak second.
Yeah.
And that might be a little trend that we talk about here on the show today. But, thank you for checking us out. Go to the website. It's doing unbelievable. All new articles and links up at straightupsports.net. And, of course, Will, find him at Steeler Will on Twitter, as well as the Clemson Insider, as well as the Believe in Clemson podcast. Now, before we get serious and look back to what happened last week, Will, you do your – I look on Twitter last night, and I see you doing your podcast with Alex Dodd. You know, I'm so glad to see. It looked like you were interviewing yourself. I mean, it literally – Alex is now grown
Everybody
the beard.
tells me that.
He had the glasses on. It looked like an older version of Vandervort interviewing a younger version of Vandervort, and that was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, Alex does a great job, and I don't know why he wants to look like me. I don't know why anybody would want to look like me, but, no, he does a great job, and he's a good kid. His dad, Murray, actually looks like my brother, so Alex could pass as my nephew. Murray and I look very similar, and that's why I think me and Alex look very similar.
Well, I'm telling you, like Ben Milstead from WCCP had the same comment on Twitter I did. I was like, man, it looks like you're interviewing yourself. But while not trying to be anybody, what we need tomorrow from Clemson, coming into this game 1-2, a noon kickoff in the Valley on ESPN against Syracuse, just win, baby. I mean, just get another win. It doesn't need to be a statement win. That's great. Win by 1 point, win by 21. I don't care. It's just win tomorrow. Get back to 2-2. Because sitting preparing for the show yesterday, the beginning of this season right now to me feels eerily similar to 2 years ago when Clemson got to a 4-4 start before they won out. Now, here's the reality. At 1-2, Clemson's got no margin for error left, all right? But I don't even think you think about that. You can't win them all till you win the first one tomorrow, and that means find a way to get out of Death Valley. Everybody's doubting you. I texted you Tuesday. I said that had to be an interesting press conference, and you hit me with a one-word response, yes. So
it was fun.
Yeah. So, none of us thought Clemson would be 1-2 at this point of the season, but 1-3, and this thing could get ugly. I would not want to be on the airwaves around here on Monday.
Yeah, if they go 1-3, it will mark the first time since 2004 that Clemson has started the season 1-3. So as I put it in my preview and predictions on the website, is this is what's at stake, and I said history. Yeah. History's at stake. You want to avoid it.
2 decades.
And so I mean that's a long time. I was a young man in 2004. Now I'm an old guy, and so Dabo was a young man in 2004. He wasn't even the head coach then. It's definitely something you don't want to fall into, and here's why. There's lots of things I like about college football more than pro football, but there's things I like about pro football more than college. And here's a couple of them. One, in the NFL, your season's not over after losing 1 or 2 games.
Right.
That's the thing that sucks about college football. I wish they could fix, because I just don't think a team should feel like their season's over in week 3. Another thing that sucks about college football is the point spreads matter when they shouldn't. In the NFL, if you win by 1 point, you win by 1 point. Life's great. You're happy. I know as a Steelers fan, if we win by 1 against New England on Sunday, I don't care. I'm going to be thrilled.
That's right.
But fans aren't thrilled in college football because if their team, like Clemson's favored by 17, which I don't understand. But let's say Clemson wins by 10 or they win by 3. There'll be fans out there that'll be, they were favored by 16 points or 17 points. They should have done that. I'm disappointed in them. Like, that's the thing I hate about college football is that for some reason the betting line is set as what should happen in the game, and teams are measured off of it. That's why the whole college football playoff, they're like, well, it's the eye test. And it's like, no, a win's a win. I don't care if it's 1 point or 40 points. A win's a win, and you celebrate it, and you give that team credit for winning the game that day, finding ways to win. You don't say, well, they should have won by 16.
Well,
that's a bunch of crap.
And you hear from, everybody we deal with that, the hardest game to win in is football because one person misses their assignment on a particular play. One person's out of position. Exactly. So, everybody always says the fun's in the winning. The fun's in the winning, but it's not beating your chest in public. I mean, walking out of the stadium Saturday, I saw one and only one incident. And quite frankly, I hate to say it at 56 years old, but the guy deserved the blood that came out of it. I mean, just screaming in this guy's ear walking out of Grant Field on Saturday. Guy didn't turn around, just let loose of one punch. Clemson fan on a Tech guy. But, the fun's in the winning. First of all, we're real easy to sit here and, be media members or be coaches. We got to watch the game Saturday. I'll give Clemson one piece of advice and leave it alone at that. You can't get down 16-0. You can't get down 13-0. You're making the game that much more difficult. Again, coming back to that word margin of error. Mm-hmm. Clemson fought back. Clemson, I felt good at halftime when Clemson walked off 13-7, get that late touchdown in the second quarter going, that's one of the worst halves of football I've seen, and they're only down 6 points. Ultimately, they come back. Bryant Wesco takes one to the house. They take a 14-13 lead. And then from that point on, it just felt like a culmination or a combination of small plays that weren't made. The third down drop by Wesco. A bad call on offense when, I was watching what Eric McLean had up there. They literally pulled in a tight end, which brought another guy in the box, and Cade tripped over him one time. There just wasn't any room to maneuver. So it wasn't just on the players. It was on the coaches. It was on the defense. How many times did we look at each other and go, you got to get off the field on third down here? Problem was, and I have no problem saying this, the toughest football player on that field last week was Georgia Tech quarterback Haynes King. We noticed him in midway through the third quarter. He started limping. He started slowing down. And that kid never, ever let it get to him. And you know what? Sucks. My first college football game, major one in 3 years, I watched the game get decided on the last play of the game. It was, from the fan standpoint or the media standpoint.
It was a good game.
It was a great game.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was fun to cover. You're right, though, in everything you said about Clemson. Clemson right now is beating themselves in both games. Cade Klubnik's not finding the open wide receiver. I mean, they're open a lot, almost every play. The offensive line is doing stuff I just don't understand what they're doing. Our boy Emax was talking about breaking it down, talking about that. He's like, what are they doing here?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what you're doing here. And then, the defense just, couldn't get off the field in key moments. And, look, people want to say, well, they were tired. No, they weren't. The offense just had the ball, possessed the ball most of the third quarter. They laid out a 90-yard drive. That was on them. That wasn't on the offense. They weren't tired at that point. They weren't like, oh, my gosh, suck and win. Guy can't get off the field. No, they were tired because they were allowing first downs, and it's on them. It wasn't on the Clemson offense. Clemson responded after that 90-yard, 6.5-minute drive with a 75-yard, 13-play, 6-minute, and 45-second drive. So your defense wasn't tired at all. And so that's a bunch of crap. They need to own that, and the fans need to stop trying to always blame it on the offense and pay attention to what's going on. The defense has been very average so far this season, and the offense has been below average, and that's why they're 1-2.
Yep. Hey, listen, the reality of it is this year, I think more so than any other, I have seen the effect of NIL and the change in college football because, it turns out – when we were up at ACC football kickoff back in July, Arch Manning for the Heisman. Guess what happened in the first half out in Austin on Saturday in a very unimpressive win? They started booing Arch Manning. Mm-hmm. I'm still a little proud that somebody told me back in the day, and it's not a shot, that he was a three-star quarterback with a 5-star name. Well, he admitted, I got to go out there and play better. All right, so if Arch doesn't win it, it's going to be Cade Klubnik. That was the second one. Well, guess what? Cade Klubnik's not winning any Heisman Trophy.
Nope.
Well, there's a quarterback at Miami by the name of DJ Lagway that could be a sleeper for the Heisman. turns out that we now have to wait a few games to see how a team develops in this new era of college football before, everybody's throwing Bama under the bus after week 1. Maybe Florida State is the 7th-ranked team in the nation. I don't know. It's hard to tell off wins against East Texas A&M and Kent State. You know what I mean?
But Alabama went out there and took care of business.
Right. So
Wisconsin,
we don't know. And that's what I think is frustrating for me is we kind of – back in the day, I felt like I had a pretty good idea of how the first month of a season was going to play. No more. No. You get there's things like team chemistry, things that you never really realize, if you're bringing in a lot of players. I think last year was just a year for Florida State in which it was bad team chemistry.
You know what I think part of that is the NCAA doesn't allow 2 days anymore. So
that
camp
too.
is not really like camp anymore. It's like practice. And, yeah, you have some adversity in practice, but there's no adversity better than guys just puking in the middle of practice, and they're just winded and they're tired, and the coach is making them run yard lines and stuff. That is like the best kind of adversity. That's when you find out who you are and that guy next to you. And when you look at – I remember a story Jeff Davis told me about when Coach Ford was at Clemson. And so they had a practice. They're in the middle. They just already had 2. So back then they had 3 days. And so, they had 2 practices. The second practice sucked. And so Coach Ford gets them together, gets the whole team together after practice, goes over a couple things, and he says, okay, line up, let's do it again. And they went another 2 hours, another 18 periods after that. And Jeff Davis is like, they're dying. But you know what? He said, that brought us together as a team, and that made them closer as a team. You don't get that anymore. That
and the fact that, let's be honest, I don't know how the situation is at Clemson right now. I don't know who's making what. But let's be honest, some of these kids on the field are making more than probably 75% of the fans in the stadiums now.
They're making more than the coaches.
Right.
And they're making more besides the coordinators and the head coach. Well, even the coordinators. Like, I can tell you there's several players on Clemson team that's making more money than Garrett Riley and Tom Allen.
So, you see guys, it's a different time. Shaq Lawson came out and said, in the post game, in this day of NIL, Clemson doesn't have no dogs, and that seemed to upset some people. And
he's right.
He's right. And, I looked out on the field at Georgia Tech on Saturday, and I saw 2 players for Tech that would be playing for Clemson if it weren't Coca-Cola money that's funding the Georgia Tech athletic department now. I mean, dude, you look right behind the press box, there's the Coca-Cola headquarters,
Mm-hmm.
So it's a different day. And we're all going to have to come to grips with that.
Can they fund the Georgia Tech get a better stadium? Because that is the worst stadium in history. First of all, and I love Moose, don't get me wrong. Moose is SID over there. Listen, guys, you're Georgia Polytech Institute of Technology.
Yeah.
Okay? You're supposed to be number 1 in Wi-Fi.
Thank you.
All right? I mean, my gosh.
We
haven't
all
been
put
there
our
7 years.
We all put our laptops
because of COVID, and then they played in the Georgia, whatever the new stadium is, Mercedes-Benz, the last couple times. So we haven't been to Bobby Dodd since 2018. It was worse than 2018. The internet was.
Yeah.
It was horrible. It was stupid. I mean, I couldn't get pictures up. I couldn't get a file, a regular story.
Nope.
I mean,
I shut my laptop down.
It's just ridiculous. That's one thing. And then just, the press box is just outdated. Like, come on, Coca-Cola, if you're going to fund players' money, fund
it.
a little bit.
But all that money's now got to
to
end up on the numerical roster and not with the amenities, especially when it comes to media.
I'm asking for working amenities.
Yeah,
That's all
exactly.
I'm asking for. I'm not asking for, a T-bone steak.
So the reality this week, we heard the interesting press conference on Tuesday. Dabo says, I'm not ready to go off to the beach or whatnot. Was that real or contrived? I mean, Dabo.
That was real.
Okay.
I thought it was real because, he was coming off a question. I think Larry Williams asked it, and he was coming off a question of, basically like, your thoughts on the preseason hype. Did we just overrate them? What do you think? And then that's when he kind of just, I don't hear all the stuff. People text me, and that was pretty funny, actually. His phone blows over. That's how he knows that people are talking about him.
Right.
So it kind of just, he went down that road, and then and then playing off of what happened on his show on Monday night, I think where some fans were just, they weren't Tyler from Spartanburg, but I think maybe they kind of got under Dabo's skin a tad bit, and he was just like, you know what, I'll leave if you want me to. I'm only 55 years old. He put it out there. He said, I'm the same age Nick Saban was when he took the job at Alabama.
Also, today, I wish I had a printing press down in the bottom of my house up in Georgia.
You gotta explain to people what the printing press is.
Well, that T-shirt printer. How about that?
Okay, there you go.
Because I'd have printed 100 that says it's time to go to the beach, and I'd print 100 that says it's not time to go to the beach. Like the Boz did back in the day. He bought all the T-shirts that says the Boz sucks. And he also bought all the T-shirts that says the Boz rules. So he was getting people to buy on both sides. I felt like I could have done that today if I'd had a little time.
You could have. And then you could go with the Catholics versus cons.
Oh, the all-time best. So it's still one of my favorite 30 for 30s to this day.
It is my favorite.
So
I think it is my favorite.
I think that and Pony Excess. And, again, we will not be back here to Lakeside Lodge until the night before the SMU game. Chris McCarty will be playing from Florida that weekend, our friend that was on on America's Got Talent and has been in a Beatles documentary. And
That's 3 weeks from now, man.
We actually got some time off. I haven't had a Saturday to myself in like 6 weeks, and guess what? I will tomorrow. So, but don't forget Lakeside Lodge here. Listen, we mentioned there's a sorority party out there on the field right now. They do a wonderful. If you're thinking about what you want to do for Thanksgiving, that's 2 months away. Go ahead and get your reservations in here for Thanksgiving lunch. They do 2 seatings. Unbelievable amount of great food. Also, if you own your condo here and you're not using it, you can put it into the rental program. And imagine that. Make some of your money back off of what you're invested in. Again, right across here, we can see Death Valley. Fantastic restaurant traditions on the lake, and just thankful for Shane and David Slevin and Leighton Cubbage and all they do. And then real quick, Smoke on the Water in Greenville, also the sponsor of your Believe in Clemson podcast. Proud to tell, man, Teresa was in there this week when she was back for a doctor's appointment. She said, Mark, they're really coming along.
Mike's going to have to get me in there to do a podcast from there.
Absolutely.
So I can eat while I'm doing the podcast.
Absolutely, with some smoking jackets.
Oh, love it. Oh.
But Smoke on the Water, we're looking right at the beginning of November at 33 Beacon Drive. That's right off Pelham Road, right there where all the restaurants at Pelham Road and I-85. And just thank Mike for 15 years of sponsoring me, now sponsoring your podcast and everything else. Just a great guy and ready to get back and see him do what he's meant to do, and that's run his restaurant. And
feed Will's belly.
Yeah, feed Will's belly. All right, when we come back, we'll take a look around the ACC. There's a few national games that we'll talk about. And, of course, in the final segment, we'll look ahead to Syracuse and Clemson tomorrow. Interesting head coach, Fran Brown of the Syracuse Orangemen. Boy, he got my attention. I bet he got his team's attention as well. We'll be right back.
To the innovators, the disruptors, the game changers, the ones who brave the frontiers of knowledge with relentless curiosity. There is a place where you belong, a place that gives you an advantage. Furman is your launch pad, your proving ground, your home. Here you're not just learning, you're evolving, igniting, propelling from who you are to who you're destined to be.
It's more than football.
Let's all come together to be a bridge builder through this great game to change the lives of the people in the state of South Carolina.
Together, we can be a voice to help educate, encourage, and empower excellence in our youth and community.
Join the movement and help support all that the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame is doing to embrace this mission of celebrating, recognizing, and encouraging excellence.
I'm here at one of my favorite places in Greenville. That's Tip It Back Sports Grill, 215 Pelham Road, here in the Commons at Pelham. And listen, there's a lot going on at Tip It Back here during the week. First of all, there's happy hour, Monday through Friday, 3 to 7 p.m. There's great food. They're open at noon for lunch. But Mondays, you can enjoy live trivia at 7 p.m., then Monday Night Football. On Thursdays, it's football and then karaoke. On Friday night, some of the best live entertainment in the upstate. And then Saturday, it's football all day and finishes off with karaoke. And then Sunday, it's NFL football. And if you're a Steelers fan, this is your spot. It's the home for the Steelers. They're on the broadcast here in the bar all day long. That's Tip It Back Sports Grill. Check them out. It'll be your home for college football.
All right, welcome back in. Will Vandervort, Mark Sturgis. We're live here at Lakeside Lodge. Don't forget, when we're done, the Eric Weiler Group, 5-piece band from up in Greenville, going to be taking outside the stage, however you want to put it. But, Will, before we go any further and look at some of these ACC games, I want to give plugs. First of all, Cliff Witherspoon, he's our webmaster, our camera guy, our streamer, our pretty much everything that takes to keep things up and on the air. He's not feeling the best today, and I'm telling you, he's had a rough week. So one of the things that he's been able to do at home, I guess, put some more stuff on the website. I got to give Kiefer some credit. He comes in with an article yesterday about all the best barbecue spots to go hit on the rest of the Clemson road games for the season. Absolutely fantastic. That's what we're trying to do at StraightUpSports.net.
And I've spent some time with those barbecue spots.
Yeah, I guarantee you have. And then also, Bob Gillespie's going to be at the Ryder Cup here in a couple of weeks covering things for us. And I can actually say that Straight Up Sports will have somebody at the Winter Olympics in Italy as well. So pretty cool things going on there at StraightUpSports.net.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
So,
I'm not going to the Olympics, so it's not me.
No, it's me and my wife and Bryce Atkinson. So, all right, starting off at noon tomorrow, Bowling Green at Louisville. Bowling Green's 2-1 on the year, but Louisville, that's one of those bought games. I expect to see a 4 or 5 touchdown win by Louisville tomorrow.
You hope so. Louisville hasn't played great this year either, so they found ways to win, and that's the number one thing. So you like to see them come out tomorrow and kind of play well and, again, make the conference look good. That's kind of like the ACC needs a good look right now because right now it doesn't have one.
Well, it could get worse. I think I tweeted Saturday, the end of the second quarter, toward halftime, they're not going to let Brent Pry out of the locker room at Virginia Tech after halftime. They were trailing 28-0 to cross-state rival Old Dominion. Well, I wasn't too far off because they fired him early on Sunday. So
he didn't even get to go to church.
Yeah. So this has got to be the worst football game in college football with a Division I team tomorrow. Wofford 0-3 at Virginia Tech 0-3. Now, I'm down on Wofford because the way that they handled their basketball coach this past week, Dwight Perry firing him, months before I'm sorry, just shouldn't have happened. So may that be the worst game of the weekend, and all of y'all have to watch it for 10 hours. That would be my curse, if you will.
Let's just hope Virginia Tech doesn't win it 3-0.
Oh, can you imagine 3-2?
I guess Frank Beamer would be celebrating it.
Yeah. What, double overtime, 3-0 win? I mean, that's what people would deserve there. So hey, I'm going to go ahead and pull it. I don't call it an upset tomorrow. SMU 2-1, making it over to Fort Worth from Dallas, taking on TCU. TCU wins that ball game.
Oh, yeah.
SMU.
SMU can't stop a nosebleed.
Yeah. So, and I think TCU's quarterback is one guy. I told you, my friend Mike Buddy is now the athletic director at TCU, and he told me they had a quarterback. And then I watched that North Carolina game. I'm like, yes, y'all do. So, at 3:30 tomorrow, you got Kent State 1-2 on the year at number 7 Florida State. Just feels funny. It seems natural to say that, thinking about the past Florida State football teams, but based off just what I saw last year, it just blows my mind that you could go from 2-10. Yeah. So, 45-point win for Florida State tomorrow.
Well, Kent State, that's a little scrappy team. I think it'll probably be somewhere like 45-10, 45-17. I think Kent State makes it a little more respectable. They're a scrappy team this year.
Also at 3:30 tomorrow, I think this will be a good ball game. just like Bama, people were ready to bury North Carolina after the opening week. They fought back with consecutive wins. They're on the road, the Tar Heels, at Central Florida, at UCF.
This is where they go back to reality.
Okay.
They're not playing Charlotte or Richmond.
Yep.
So.
But, UCF, it's always interesting. We're seeing the double dip go on. You see Rich Rodriguez in his second stint at West Virginia.
Yeah.
Now you've got Scott Frost there at UCF. I'm sorry, Jack Frost was a really good writer, Call of the Wild. Things you can learn here on our show, a little English. All right, but, you look around now and people are willing to go to the pond for the second time, so we'll see with Scott Frost. 4 p.m., don't look now. My least favorite coach in the ACC has NC State 3-0, at Duke 1-2. Listen, quietly, North Carolina State could be moving toward the end of the September with a 4-0 record. You're saying 3-1.
This is a coach. Man, help me. My brain's going.
Doran. Yeah.
This is a Doran special.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I think.
First of all, Duke's got a very good quarterback. Right. And Duke's got some player and weapons, and I think Duke can really do some things. I think Duke wins this game.
I'm going to go with Doran on this one because everybody's kind of put it on him. He's been there 13 years and hasn't won 10 games. I don't like him.
He don't ever win 10 games.
I don't like seeing Bama 2-1, Clemson 1-2.
Quite
frankly, I don't like.
You're watching Scott, but no.
I don't like seeing South Carolina without their quarterback. The older I get, I guess the nicer I get. All right. Speaking of, it's not an ACC game, but at 4:30 tomorrow, Temple 2-1 at now number 18 Georgia Tech. Yeah, the one thing Georgia Tech beat Clemson, but they're really good against ranked teams. The one thing now Georgia Tech's going to have to do is not deliver one of those bad ACC losses that they've had in previous seasons. As long
Please
as
don't let that happen. After what Oklahoma won 45-3 there last week, after their big win over Michigan, so Temple. I mean, Oklahoma's really good. Don't get me wrong. And
right.
Brent
Temple's not. But well, I'm saying later on in the year, watch out. Georgia Tech tends to play a clunker every single year.
Yeah. I mean, you hope that's not the clunker tomorrow because that would be embarrassing.
Stanford 7:30 tomorrow night. 1-2 at Virginia. 2-1. Tony Elliott needs to keep putting
3-1 should be 4-1.
Yep.
And
then finally, the team no one's talking about.
Or 4-0
is Cal 3-0 at San Diego State 1-1. I'm telling you
right
now,
they're going to win that game tomorrow. They'll be 4-0.
Well, I think they will. Number 2, I really enjoyed my time with Justin Wilcox, their head coach. He's a former assistant from Tennessee, and he actually had the upstate of South Carolina as his recruiting territory back. So we got to sit down. We talked restaurants and everything. I'm telling you what, the first phone call I think Virginia Tech makes is to Shane Beamer's agent. One of the seconds I would make is to Justin Wilcox.
Well, but doesn't what's his name, the former Panthers coach, isn't he like their general manager?
Cal, yes, yeah. Ron Rivera. First year there, and look what he's doing, and the players he's brought in through the portal and all. He's got Cal playing well. I give Rivera some credit too. Is what my point is. Well, yeah, but just sitting there talking to Wilcox up in the hallway in 2 chairs. I wasn't interviewing, but kind of ended up being like an interview, and we figured out we knew a couple places. He's like, so what do you miss from Knoxville? I was like, a place called the Pizza Palace out on Magnolia. Oh, yeah. It's amazing how food can bring out some similarities.
Well, I think what coaches learn when they talk to us actually in the media, they actually find out we're all very similar.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you guys aren't bad after all. I'm like, no, we eat the same food you do. We do the same things. We love football the way you do. Like, we're not evil like you think we are.
We're getting paid to do this just like y'all are. We're just getting paid as much.
We just don't get paid nearly as much.
All right, 3:30 tomorrow is a round of good games, man. This is one time I'm glad I got multiple TVs downstairs in my quote-unquote sports bar in Blairsville. But you got number 22 Auburn with Jackson Arnold at quarterback. They're 3-0 at number 11 Oklahoma. Also 3-0. Remember, Jackson Arnold just transferred from Oklahoma to Auburn.
Yep.
So there's a lot of intrigue in that ball game to me. I think Oklahoma wins because I think they probably have the better defense. But I could also sit here and make the case for the 3-0 Tigers to go out there. I mean, to me that's a good, fascinating football game.
If Auburn were to upset them, it wouldn't. But I think Brent Venables right now, with the way his quarterback's playing and the way he's got that defense playing, because you got the two-headed monster back. Wes Goodwin's up in the press box doing his thing. That I tell you, that's where he's the best at. and he's ushering it down to Venables, who's calling all the defensive plays. And those two, that's why Clemson's defense was so good for so many years. Mm-hmm. And now they're back together. They got the band back together, and look what that defense is doing. Totally different.
Right now, I put this as one of the 5 games I want to watch tomorrow on ESPN at 3:30. Tulane 3-0 at number 13 Ole Miss. Yeah. Listen, Tulane handled
Green Wave.
Yeah, Tulane handled Duke rather easily till the last moments of the game. Let Duke score a few points, kind of make it look better than it was, but. Tulane, lost their quarterback to Duke for multiple millions of dollars last year. You don't think that made them feel good, knocking off Duke in New Orleans. Lane Kiffin, I just don't know what he is as a coach. But tomorrow at 3:30, you also got Michigan, number 21, at Nebraska, 3-0.
I'm sorry, I had to throw that out there. We don't know what Lane Kiffin is as a person either. Let's just call it.
I could share a couple stories that from his time in Knoxville that he might kill me for. But no, Michigan 2-1 at Nebraska 3-0. Listen, if Nebraska's think about Clemson fans hurting right now. Wow, we're 6 years removed from 6 consecutive trips to the college football playoff, blah, blah, this. Think about hardcore Nebraska fans that, it was their God-given right to be in the top 5 at any moment for about 20 to 25 years there under Bob Devaney and then Tom Osborne. They just want to go to a good bowl game again, much less compete for a national championship. So that's why I kind of think, this might be Nebraska's chance tomorrow to re-announce himself to the national scale. But the best player on the field is going to be Michigan freshman quarterback Bryce Underwood.
Well, look at it this way. Clemson and Alabama hold the longest streaks of 9-win seasons currently. And they're like, Alabama's been since 2008. Clemson's been since 2011, okay? Keep that in mind, all right? So what you're talking about with Nebraska. Nebraska did that 33 consecutive years. 33 consecutive years. They won at least 9 games. As you mentioned, those 2 coaches that did. That's why, they feel that way.
Yeah.
And they should. Nebraska's a great college football program. It needs to be. College football's way better when Nebraska's up at the top, and they were the standard for decades.
Hey, listen, one of my old roommates was a Nebraska fan, and you know what the N stands for on the helmet.
I don't know.
Knowledge.
There we go.
There you go. All right, 7 p.m. tomorrow night. South Carolina 2-1 at number 23 Missouri 3-0. Listen, if Lenore Sellers cannot play Saturday night in this battle of Columbia, if you will, Missouri looks awfully good, and even a little bit of swagger under them, under Eli Drinkwitz, who's done a very nice job there. USC has gone out, and I want to give props or prayers to my friend Connor Shaw. I don't know if you saw he collapsed at his son's football game, but if you just remember when Connor was playing quarterback, they went out there and had a big upset of Missouri. So I think that's a big game for the Gamecocks tomorrow night with the rest of their schedule coming up. But again, real quickly, Connor Shaw, very nice young man, former Gamecock quarterback, was in Simpsonville, his son's football game the other night, and collapsed. Very big health scare there. So our thoughts and prayers are with former Gamecock quarterback Connor Shaw. Then the other game tomorrow night, I'm not sold on a Riley right now, whether it's Austin Riley at Clemson or Lincoln Riley at Southern Cal. Michigan State got a nice overtime win against Boston College this past weekend. Michigan State at Southern Cal on Fox at 7 p.m., I think. Good ball, or 11 p.m. I think that is.
Like a Rose Bowl match.
Yeah, like a Rose Bowl. That's going to be a good game, but that's kind of it where we are for this weekend.
Yeah, those are some good. There's a couple good games in there that I'll be watching tomorrow night. Obviously, that Southern Cal game would be one. The Florida Miami game.
Miami's going to drill Florida.
I don't know.
I made the comment,
but Florida's defense is really good.
That's fine. I made the comment that
I think it's going to be closer than people think.
That Miami's quarterback looked like a Guido up at ACC football kickoff, and he did. But boy, has he come to play, Carson Beck. So I think that's one of those things that maybe Mark should have thought first, spoke second before he made that comment. So hey, real quickly in the Palmetto State. when's the last time you've heard, well, we brought them up real quickly, Presbyterian football. I was wrong when I made the comment they're non-scholarship D3 now. No, they're non-scholarship FCS. And now ranked, I think, number 22 this week after they knocked off Erskine last week. They have a home game tomorrow. We'll have two people covering it at 1 p.m. against Bluefield. But, even at that level, the FCS, when you're playing without scholarship players and other people are playing, extremely impressive. I can't even sit here and tell you who that new Blue Hose head coach is. But if that's the case, he ain't going to be there very long.
No, he's doing well. As a guy who covered Newberry for several years, I have a lot of disdain for Presbyterian.
We want the battle for the Bronze Derby.
I want the Derby back. I think that needs to be played. I hate that rivalry's not played anymore. So I don't like PC until they do it.
Well,
until they bring it back. You got to give Newberry an opportunity to win it back. It's just only fair.
That's great. But again, non-scholarship versus scholar, probably going to be 4-0 tomorrow. Yep. Things that even their Brandon Burke, their SID, never thought he would say so far this year.
First time in forever.
In overtime, 30. They won at back-to-back road games to start the year at Mercer, the defending SoCon champion, then at Furman.
By the way, did you know that Presbyterian has a win at Death Valley?
Yes.
Only one.
Yep.
And it happened in 1945 during the war.
During the war, okay.
Clemson didn't have enough players, and Presbyterian came in and beat them.
Well, sounds like the whole 222-0 Georgia Tech versus Cumberland. I watched a story on that game. Cumberland had quit football. And
that's one of the best stories.
Yeah, and the coach at Georgia Tech said, "I don't care if y'all quit football or not.
It's because of what happened during baseball.
They ran up the score
on Georgia Tech, and Coach Heisman was the coach, and he didn't forget about it. And he's like, "Nope, you're going to have a football team this year."
Yep. So they went around to the fraternity houses, recruited some players. They said one kid got hit so hard in the third quarter, down 100-something to nothing. He scrambles over to the Georgia Tech sideline, and Heisman walks up to him. He goes, "I can't go back in there." So Heisman wraps a jacket around him, leaves him on the Georgia Tech.
It's a great
that's
story.
How that got to 222-0. Things you learn here on Straight Up with Sturge. Again, Will, real quickly, give us an update on what's going on at the Clemson Insider. It's unbelievable, all the coverage you have, and even the best word in my language, it's free.
Yeah, so we got obviously the mine and Jason's preview and prediction stuff is up, and Jason's got a ton of recruiting, another recruiting weekend, so there'll be a lot of recruits there tomorrow. Always a big deal with Coach Sweeney. And then, of course, we got the game covered all the way up into kickoff tomorrow. We'll have it covered during the game, and then, of course, after the game, we'll have all the coverage. So go to the ClemsonInsider.com. You can also find us at Clemson Insider on Twitter, or X, and then Clemson Insider on Facebook and on YouTube. So find us.
All right, and you can follow on Twitter at Steeler Will, me at Sturgis Sports, and of course the website straightupsports.net. When we come back, we're going to look at Clemson Syracuse. Very interesting quarterback for the Orange, even a more interesting football coach. We'll get into that in 2 minutes.
Guys, we've got you covered this football season at straightupsports.net. We have the best retired writers assembled on one staff in the state of South Carolina, like Bob Gillespie, formerly of the State newspaper, Scott Kiefer from the Greenville News, me from ESPN Upstate. We even have a student reporter, McCain Childress, down on the coast, doing some Citadel and coastal things for us. But we'll change out the links and articles every week with some of the best stories. That's the key, the best stories you're going to see. Check us out, straightupsports.net.
My name is Shania Gullidge, and I work here at Traditions on the Lake. One of the things that I definitely think makes this place so special is the warm and welcoming environment. There is nothing on the menu that I do not like, and I'm typically a super picky eater, but there is literally not one thing that I wouldn't recommend. I think Traditions is definitely a perfect spot for a family. It is the perfect environment to bring your kids, very warm and inviting. It's just a very beautiful environment all around.
Kirk Fisher is a motorcycle attorney with first responder experience. He protects fellow riders and those in danger, fighting fires and fighting for your rights. Experienced, determined, and dedicated. Iron Horse Motorcycle Lawyers. Look for motorcycles, or Kirk Fisher will be looking for you.
All right, welcome back in. Will Vandervort, Mark Sturgis. We're live here at Lakeside Lodge. We're going to get you ready for Syracuse, 2-1 on the season at Clemson, 1-2 on the season. Of course, 0-1 in ACC play. No margin for error. That game's at noon in the Valley tomorrow. You know, before we get into particular players when it comes to Syracuse, you always hear the idea of a team represents their head coach. When I saw Syracuse hire Fran Brown from Georgia as a defensive back coach 2 years ago, I was like, wow, what an underwhelming hire. Because I got to be honest with you, the previous Syracuse coach, Dino Babers, somehow we formed a relationship with because I always got him on Radio Row and at ACC Football Kickoff. I'm telling you, Fran Brown is a different kind of individual that has gotten my attention because – he's just a different kind of guy. They struggled not this past weekend. They blew out Colgate, but the weekend before last against Jim Moore's UConn team at home. And they were 11 points down with about 5 or 6 minutes left in the game. They came back, tied it, sent it to overtime, 120-7-20 in overtime. Before his team gets the chance to take off the shoulder pads, to take off the helmets after the game, the band's in the stands playing the fight song, he lines his team up at the 40-yard line and starts making them run wind sprints in full pads with people still in the stands. That's one of the ballsiest moves as a coach that I've seen in modern-day coaching when we're supposed to treat players with kid gloves, you know?
Yeah, I'm probably sure he probably got fined for that or something.
He may have, but, man, I tell you
because there's like an NCAA rule by how long, so there was probably something that happened. But good for him for not worrying about that, saying, they needed to do it. And his players respected him for it. It's not like I haven't heard one player complain about it. Not one player. And so good for his kids saying, yeah, we sucked. We deserve to run it, and so, that tells you the kind of control or respect he has in the locker room with his players and how much they respect him and how much they play hard for him. And that's the second week in a row Clemson's going to play a team that's coming into Death Valley. Last week at Georgia Tech with Brent Key was that way. That team was an identity of their head coach.
Right.
I think you're going to get the same thing this week with Syracuse. They're not the most talented team in the world. They're definitely not the best team in the world. But one thing they're going to do is they're going to play hard. They're going to play physical. And they're going to be well coached. And a team like that is dangerous, in my opinion. They can come in and beat you. And Clemson's got to be on their P's and Q's tomorrow because they got an offense that can score a lot of points. They got a defense that can give up a lot of points. Well, what we know about Clemson is, as I said earlier, Clemson's got an average defense, and they got an offense that really can't do anything. So that's not a good mesh. That's why I'm like, how in the world is Clemson a 17-point favorite?
Well, you look at the quarterback position, and I would say at 2-1, Steve Angelini comes in with more confidence into this ball game than Cade Klubnik does. He has nearly 1,100 yards on the season.
That's why this is how you know that, because this is Syracuse's sports information package. They sent us their game notes. They call it peanut butter and jelly.
Ah, got you. Okay.
Which is pretty cool. That's a great way to do it. And it helps you remember his name is Angeli.
Hey, well, and you know what? I can go further than that. Way back in the day, University of South Alabama had a duo, peanut butter and jelly. They upset somebody in the NCAA tournament in the Omni with that. Boom. There's dumb information in the back of Sturgis' head. All right, but this guy, he is not
dumb information all up in my head.
He's not the same quarterback that you saw with Kyle McCord last year, but he's a little bit more of a dual threat. He can extend plays, and he's got a little bit of a shotgun on that arm as well. Man, I saw a throw against UConn.
416 yards
in
the game.
So, let's be honest with you, he's probably coming into Death Valley with a little more swagger. But the one thing is, if you can make Syracuse one-dimensional tomorrow, which I think you can, because their running game's not much. They have a kid by the name of Yassine Willis, who
What you talking about, Willis?
What you talking about, Will? 4 touchdowns. He's just a bowling ball. He reminds me of an Emory Henry back in the day for Clemson, or Chad Jasmine, that type. So he's not going to be breaking long runs. It's short yardage and down in the red zone.
Right.
They do have some good wide receivers. They're led by Darrell Gill Jr., 12 catches, 269 yards, 2 touchdowns all in the season. So the reality is Syracuse is a little bit more peaked when it comes to their offense coming in, and Clemson's worried. But where they're going to be hurting tomorrow is on the backside of the defense with, it looks like, a couple of safeties out.
Yeah, we'll find out here in a little bit. They're going to have the ACC is going to release its, its injury report that it does, and so we'll find out. Last night those guys were listed as questionable. So if they're that tells you that, I don't know if they're going to make it or not. So we'll see. I think the good news for Clemson in that injury report last night that came out is probable is Antonio Williams. Probable is Tristan Lee. Probable is Khalil Barnes. And probable is Elijah Thurman, which means those guys are probably going to play.
Yeah.
So that's good news for Clemson because you're getting your 4 guys that you need desperately back.
Let's say you only get one. Which of those 4 do you think is most important to suit up tomorrow?
People are probably going to be surprised when I say this, but I think it's Khalil Barnes.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
He seems to be that dominant personality type A player there on the defensive side of the ball, and they need that leadership.
They need him for that Tiger package.
Yeah.
And Dabo talked about that this week, that they really need him out there because Dabo mentioned it, how they're soft on the edges. And, and if you watch last week's game, Georgia Tech, you can see why Dabo said that. I mean, their corners got just demolished the whole game.
Yep.
And so they got a little physical. Khalil Barnes is a guy that can be physical and will be physical because he can play that safety nickel position. And, you're going to see him. He also plays the run better, and he's a guy that can get up in there and stops the run. He also is he's a guy that causes turnovers, and he finds his way to the football. So that's why you want to have him back. Now, they want Antonio Williams back, too, because I think look at Cade Klubnik's numbers with Antonio Williams. I mean, it's like a night and day. Touchdowns to interceptions, completion percentage, like way better when Antonio Williams is in the ballgame.
So a couple of things that I think need to happen tomorrow for Clemson to get the win is, number one, you got to stop the trend of the past 2 weeks and getting down 13-0 or 16-0. You can't take your crowd out of the game tomorrow with a bad start, because you're not only going to take them out of the game, you're going to start hearing grumbling and boos, and everything's going to be uncomfortable.
You're right. And also keep in mind that the last 2 quarters against LSU, they got outscored 14-0.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're looking at 10 quarters where they really haven't played football, where they've controlled the game for the most part.
Number 2, for this football team, and especially the offense, it's easier said and done in yesterday's world of the past, but somehow, some way, you got to quit worrying about all the noise on the outside, block it out, and go out there and do what you're supposed to do, what you're here to do, which is, if you're not a student, you're the athlete, go play football tomorrow, let it all hang out, go have fun. That's the one thing that I have seen. It doesn't look like anybody's having fun.
I agree.
I think
you said that in the second quarter.
Yes.
You noticed that. You said, look at that sideline. It's just like they're going through the motions.
Yeah.
Nobody's having fun over it.
Nobody. I think the pressure and the expectations maybe finally got to them. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is, but I think the Christian Wilkin teams fed off of that expectations. This team doesn't. Yeah, this team doesn't seem to want to play that way yet.
When you have Trevor Lawrence and Travis
exactly.
Etienne and
You're putting.
Higgins.
I mean, think about it. The last time they were in there with Trevor Lawrence, 70-7. You got to give Georgia Tech credit.
73-7. Yeah.
That's a long way that they've come back under Brent Key. Enjoy him. I got the feeling that there'll be some big time programs. Sniffing around.
People are gonna come after him this year. There's no doubt.
All right. Then my final thing is to put it on the Clemson fans. You don't have another home game to come to till October 18th. The next one after that's November 1st. So go out there, enjoy the day. It's going to be beautiful weather. Go out there and enjoy the day. Go enjoy the football game. Go cheer for these guys. They need it more right now than they ever did playing in a semifinal against Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl. Those guys need you more now than they ever did when they were winning. And, go make it Death Valley. Make it a hard place to play. Make it tough on the quarterback to get his signals out for Syracuse. And then go get off the field, go enjoy this, and get better because you got the following weekend off. And then, the October schedule is definitely not as difficult as what we've seen in September.
No, it's not. They got a chance to go on a little bit of a win streak here. Starts tomorrow. They can get a win tomorrow. I think that'll be a good win in my opinion, and that could propel them. They get a week off, and they got North Carolina. They got Boston College, winnable games. I think they come home with SMU, which is a winnable game. So they got a streak there where there's 5 games before they play Florida State.
You got a chance to get healthy.
You got a chance to get healthy, get to 6-2, playing with some confidence, probably ranked at that point. And you got Florida State, which is probably going to be a ranked team, high-ranked team coming in.
And
got something to play for.
Absolutely, because who wins that game? Say you don't take another loss, then Clemson would have the tiebreaker advantage on Florida State.
Correct.
There. Again, you do need Georgia Tech to have one flop coming up.
You need
really
Georgia Tech to have 2 flops, but you need them to at least have one.
Right.
And then you need Florida State to knock off Miami in a couple weeks. And then you need Clemson to knock off Florida State.
Right.
And then after that, we got ourselves a little party going on.
Here's the thing, we're sitting here on September 19th trying to
Already
figure
figuring
out
it out.
things that we never thought that we'd be going through back in July.
I told this to a friend of mine this past week. What needs to happen, and these big conferences need to really start paying attention to it. They want to play 9 games and all that, and they can. But my thing, schedule 7 games, okay? 7 conference games. Then you break up into 4 divisions. Then you play a week 8 conference games. You play a semifinals. And then in week 9, you play the championship games. And then so you get it to where the conference championship games lay now, but that's how you work your schedule, right? And then anybody who's not in the semifinals or in the championship, they play games against the other teams on how they finished in the division. That's how you play 9 games. You make a lot of money. TV wants to do that because now you're talking about a playoff going into it. And then guess what? The biggest thing is losing 1 game in the regular season doesn't cost you a chance at a championship.
Clemson fans need to be extremely thankful that it went from a 4-team playoff to a 12-team because, losing to Georgia 34-3 in the opener in the old format, that would have been the end of the season right there after the first game.
Exactly.
So, yeah, and you'll see this thing grow to 16 at some point. But, the reality is you can't win them all. And I'm talking about the final 9 games on the schedule if you don't win the first one tomorrow. And that's the primary objective is get a win. Quit worrying about, they don't worry about the message boards. A nice, pretty win would be nice, but right now, I'll just settle for a W.
Man, settle for a win, man.
Yep.
Get a win tomorrow.
Go feel good about yourself for 2 weeks.
And then for 2 weeks, you get to sit on that for 2 weeks. A lot of positives, a lot of good things, and so feel better about yourself. And that's what you need. That's what this team needs.
Yeah.
They desperately need it. I'm sure Bill Belichick's hoping they get a loss and they feel bad about themselves.
Yeah, you couldn't find me in Clemson, South Carolina next week for
anything.
I'm
going to say
this. A loss, man.
I'm going to say this real fast. We got here. I hate Chapel Hill. Okay, I hate what it means, what it stands for. Dean Smith. It's so obnoxious that they put their basketball stuff.
He stood up. No.
I know. It's so obnoxious that they put their basketball stuff on football uniforms. That really just irks me. It's on their stadium. I'm like, oh, that irks me. And every time Clemson football has gone up there and I've went to cover the game, Clemson stinks.
Yeah.
I mean, they lost in 2010 to them, and then they should have lost in 2019 to them. So, Dabo, can you just go up there and just beat the snot out of Bill Belichick? Because it's Bill Belichick, too, and he's beat my Steelers like 1,000,000 times because he had Tom Brady. I hated it. And so it's just do this for me.
All right.
That's all I'm asking.
Listen, it's the simple things in life, right? Speaking of, it was also nice to see Cliff back there stand up when you started talking about the North Carolina Tar Heels.
Because we were sitting, to move out.
We were sitting here talking about, sit around for the next couple weeks.
For that door.
That's what we're hoping he's going to be doing is sitting around for the next couple weeks. Of course, that's Cliff Weatherspoon, RedArrowSC.com. They do everything for us. If you need a website done, check check him out. Does great work. He and his wife Beverly, two top-notch people, people that have become family with us. Also, another week with our buddy Bryson.
Yeah.
Let him see a little bit more about college football.
He went to his first Clemson college game, period, the other day.
So
that was pretty cool to go to that game.
You know, I like I said, deep down, I hated seeing Clemson lose, but going back and doing something that I never thought I'd do again after the brain bleed, which is cover a major game. Yes, I've covered Furman and, some stuff that's just not near as difficult. To see that game come down to a last-second field goal, which Clemson misses one, with a timeout. They rush their kicking team out with 14 seconds left. He takes a deep breath. Boom, 55 yards. They win the game.
Look, there was a lot of talk. First of all, I think Dabo did the right call, not calling timeout. I'm with Dabo on it. I understand why he did.
I would have rushed him.
Because the kicker's rushing, everybody's rushing, and it's a long field goal. However, if Dabo did call the timeout, it's not so much icing the kicker. Bart Boatwright, who's the best photographer in the world, he took a picture of the game-winning kick, and Wade Woodaz missed it by 1 inch of blocking that kick. If Ian Shefflin's out there or Darren Mayo's out there, both of them are 6'8", 6'9", they block that kick.
Hey, listen, Shefflin.
And they're on the block team. That's what they do. Jump up. They're the guys that jump up normally.
Yep. 4th down, Shefflin gets in for one play. They go right to him on a jump ball. Dude, he was covered up. That would have been an intentional foul in basketball. You know what I mean?
So, he's blocking out, man. He's doing what he's supposed to do.
Guy hugged him, said, "You're not catching that ball," and he did. And he still almost held on to it.
He got first and goal at the 1 after that.
Yeah, he did. All right. So, again, next week we'll be off. The Eric Weiler Group getting ready to start here at Lakeside Lodge. Again, Clemson's best place. The Traditions on the Lake, one of the more interesting menus that you're going to see around. The pool bar, the pool, outside. There's so many things to do here. As I mentioned, if you're interested in purchasing one, you can put it into the rental program and make money back. That's a really, really cool thing. Also, check us out next week on the website. We'll have all new articles up as well as links on Monday. And appreciate everybody checking that out. And, other than that, Will, just go get a win tomorrow. 3 weeks ago we were worried about style points. Right now, just get the record back to 500 and then go from there.
That's all you can do. Just one game at a time.
All right. Well, check out Will Vandervort at Steeler Will and the Clemson Insider during the game and all throughout the week. In the meantime, hope you have a great week. Be blessed.